What the heck is this, Melissa? I slam my palm against the chain links. She smooths her blazer sleeves. HOA safety perimeter. Standard procedure. That's federal property. My fingers twist in the wire. You're breaking federal law. Her manicured nail taps the clipboard. File the forms next time. The distant diesel roar builds as I lean closer. This isn't a fence. The first bulldozer appears down the block. It's your first mistake. The sun had barely cracked the horizon when I stumbled out of bed, still half dreaming of silence and coffee. I shuffled to the window, expecting the usual, dew on my crops, Rusty nosing around for gophers. Instead, I froze. An electric fence, gleaming with cold precision, snaked around my entire property. Coiled wire, humming menace, and every 10 feet, a bright yellow warning sign zip-tied to the links like some Orwellian art installation. Community Safety Initiative, Willow Creek HOA, in bold red. And there, like the crowning jewel of insanity, stood Melissa. I knew it had her fingerprints before I even saw her. She stood just outside my gate, sipping iced coffee from a monogrammed tumbler, her sunglasses glinting like she was surveying a newly conquered kingdom. That would have been ridiculous enough, except my farm wasn't just mine. It was leased in part by the Department of Homeland Security, federal training ground. Melissa had just electrified a federal asset like it was her backyard sandbox. I'm Jake Whitaker, ex-Army, former intelligence support. I bought this patch of farmland to escape the world. Peace, land to breathe. My property sat on the edge of Willow Creek, shiny new suburbia, rows of beige-sided homes birthed from a prefab template, all regulated down to mailbox color and hedge symmetry. I stayed on my acreage. They stayed in their manicured lots. Then Melissa arrived. The barn, she said, squinting up at it like it personally insulted her drapes, isn't visually harmonious with Willow Creek's architectural aesthetic. I raised an eyebrow. The barn predates your development by 100 years. It's also in active use by DHS. She blinked slowly. Well, maybe the Department of Homeland Security should submit a color palette request to the Architectural Review Committee. I laughed. She didn't. But I ignored her. Figured she'd get bored and start policing lawn gnomes instead. I underestimated her need to dominate. She was intercepting my Amazon deliveries at the community gate. Said she needed to verify compliance. She fined me $500 for excessive airborne particulates after I tilled a field. She even marched onto my property illegally and slapped a neon orange sticker on my barn. Unapproved temporary structure, removal pending. That's when I started documenting photos, audio, every email, every visit. If she wanted a war, fine. I wasn't about to lose to a suburban dictator with a curated Pinterest board. Then came the fence. One morning I glanced outside with a fresh cup of black coffee and dropped the mug. The entire perimeter of my land had been encircled overnight with an electrified metal snake. Signs everywhere. Fake government logos clumsily photoshopped onto HOA letterhead. Melissa stood at my gate again, coffee in hand, like she just sealed the deal on a beachfront condo. I stormed out. "You've lost your damn mind," I said, barely holding back. She didn't even blink. "We had a community vote. The fence protects against your unstable agricultural operations and unlicensed buildings." I stared at her. "You fenced in federal property. This is a DHS training lease. What you've done isn't just nuts, it's a felony." She gave a little shrug. "If the government is using your land, they should file a zoning variance like everyone else." That's when I knew she'd fully snapped. This wasn't about community safety. It was about control. Her need to dominate what she couldn't own. That night I paced the fence line, checking every angle. Even the DHS shed tucked under the oaks was wrapped in barbed tape. She'd boxed in federal property with electric current. I wanted to cut it down, but instead I compiled the dossier. Photos, fake signage, emails. I sent it all to Sarah, my DHS contact. Her response came 10 minutes later. Do not touch the fence. A team's en route. The next morning, DHS rolled up at dawn. 3 unmarked black SUVs. Silent, deliberate. Rusty barked once and backed away. He knew authority when he saw it. Melissa was already outside, pruning her roses with hot pink gloves and acting like she hadn't just turned her HOA into a federal security risk. Marcus stepped out of the lead vehicle. We'd worked together during the lease approval. Stone-faced, precise. He only smiled when people really screwed up. I raised my coffee mug and nodded toward the fence. Melissa spotted them, straightened her spine, and strode forward like she was about to give a tour of a model home. Good morning, she chirped. Can I help you, gentlemen? Marcus didn't break stride. You responsible for this fence? Melissa smiled wider. Oh, yes, it's an HOA-approved initiative to protect the community. All legal. We hired a contractor. Up to code. Marcus raised an eyebrow. His partner scanned the perimeter with a handheld device. Melissa kept talking, clearly sensing her grip slipping. Of course, we weren't aware it was federal land, she said with a brittle laugh. Nobody told us. Marcus handed her a tablet with lease documents, GPS boundaries, and a photo of the exact moment she signed for a delivery on my land 3 weeks prior. Well, Melissa said, her smile cracking, that doesn't change jurisdiction. This is HOA property. The barn, those antennas, the weird metal boxes, they're not HOA approved. You're trespassing. Marcus blinked once. Tampering with federal operations is a felony. You aware of that? Her voice jumped an octave. It's just a fence. I didn't know. I thought, look, it was messy. I was protecting our property values. Then the paranoia bloomed. What about radiation? What about the drones? What if kids see classified information? Marcus barely reacted. We have footage. You signed off on the fence, installed fake federal logos, and called DHS a cosplay agency in an email to your board. Melissa's face drained of color. You read my emails? That's illegal. Marcus shrugged. Public HOA server. Read the fine print. The real kicker came when a technician pulled me aside, holding up a device the size of a deck of cards. We found this wired near your barn. Signal jammer. Amateur, but enough to scramble a drone feed mid-flight. I narrowed my eyes. Melissa planted it. He nodded grimly. Also found a signal interceptor. This one's not DIY. Someone was trying to harvest data. By noon, Melissa was retreating to her porch, furiously texting. Her HOA loyalists peeked out from their houses but didn't step forward. Silence spread like fog. DHS issued citations. Unauthorized electrified perimeter, impersonation of government signage, tampering with federal property. Marcus muttered, "Legal's gonna feast on this." Worse, Melissa's contractor, under active investigation. The signal interceptor wasn't just grabbing drone footage. It was built to siphon encrypted data. The FBI wanted a word. Later that night, I got a text from Tom, one of the few decent neighbors. Emergency HOA meeting. You're the headliner. Melissa wasn't surrendering. She was pivoting. I showed up. Her living room was packed with finger foods, fruit punch, and awkward neighbors clutching cheese cubes like shields. She stood near her fireplace, HOA binder in hand like a holy scroll. Jake, she called, false cheer loud enough to turn heads. Maybe you can explain to everyone why DHS overreacted to a simple misunderstanding. I sat, silent. She launched into a speech about family values, community harmony, and how outside threats endangered Willow Creek's way of life. Then Ellen, quiet, cardigan-wearing, lawn gnome enthusiast, stood up. "Melissa," she said evenly, "I checked the property lines. Jake's land isn't HOA territory. Never was. That fence? Illegal. You just dragged us into a federal mess." Gasps, murmurs. Melissa tried to cut her off, but Ellen was on a roll. "Oh, and those fake signs? My nephew saw them printed at your office," Melissa snapped. "I did what I had to. He's got antennas, for God's sake, drones over our kids." I stood then, voice calm. "Those are DHS training drones. You fenced a federal site, jammed their feed. You didn't just break rules, you put people in danger." A pause. "This isn't about property values. It's about you, thinking the world should follow your rules. And now we're all paying the price." The meeting dissolved. People left in silence. Some shook my hand on the way out. Others avoided Melissa like she'd grown horns. The next week, the board voted her out, 34-2. I think one vote was her husband's, who hadn't shown his face since. They apologized to DHS, paid fines out of community reserves, enrolled in a federal compliance seminar. Then came Marcus's call. "That interceptor wasn't just snooping," he said. "Looks like someone used it to scrape encrypted drone logs. We're digging into the contractor. He might have overseas ties." Melissa had accidentally opened the door to something far bigger than an HOA spat, and somehow she still didn't get it. She filed another complaint, zoning violation, aerial trespass. The inspector showed up already annoyed. "Fifth anonymous tip this month," he muttered. "Same typo, same complainant." I handed him coffee and a copy of the DHS lease. He left shaking his head. After that, houses started listing. Buyers pulled out once they heard federal investigation. Willow Creek wasn't pristine anymore. It was scandal-stained. I put up a new sign: private land, monitored, trespassers prosecuted. Melissa passed by one morning, paused, looked at the new surveillance camera I'd mounted. Her mouth twisted, but she said nothing. Just tugged her dog's leash and kept walking. That was her white flag. No apology, just silence. I sat on my porch, sipping my coffee as the sun rose behind the oaks. A neighbor drove by, honked, and gave me a thumbs up. Funny thing about fences, they're built to keep things out, but sometimes all they do is trap the person who built them. Melissa thought she was boxing me in. Turns out she was just building her own cage. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful true stories. Your support allows us to keep delivering valuable insights and stories that inform and inspire people everywhere. Thank you for watching Work Story, and see you in the next one.